Okay, welcome. Good evening. We'll bring this meeting to order. First thing, Amy, I'm not seeing the other participants. Can you tell us who do we have?
Um, from the public, it looks like we have Jane, Chelsea Clark, Miss Colleen is there. We've got Scott Heggie and Mark Payne.
Okay, welcome all. Thank you, regulars. Appreciate you participating. First off, I apologize. My video is not working and I am inept in fixing that problem. It happens from time to time, but I can see you, except I don't see the members of the public. So Amy, you'll have to help me there. So we'll bring this meeting to order. First meeting in January 2026. Amy, would you like to do roll call?
Correct. Mayor Anderson,
Present.
Counselor Campbell,
Present.
Counselor Estes, he may
Present.
be here. Oh, there you are. Counselor Kerner, maybe not yet. Counselor Cannon, looks like he hasn't joined quite yet. Counselor Wright? And he's not here quite yet. And Counselor Lindmeyer.
Present.
Thank you all.
Well, maybe some will join us. We'll press on. We have a quorum. Okay, any additions, corrections to the agenda from anyone? I had one thought, Gary, since you participated in the skate park committee, the rules development committee, maybe you could just, at the end, we'll do it under updates, just give us a little thumbnail how that went. I hear it went well. Okay, if not, we'll go with the agenda. Approval of the December 10th meeting minutes. They look good, Amy, thorough as always to me. I saw one typo in there and I forget what it was, but it's not a big deal. Any comments from any other counselors?
I had one just super small thing.
Please.
Under number 6, the city activities, updates and reports. On the very last bullet point that it said Counselor Campbell and then commended Brenna. I don't know if I was the one speaking and talking about someone else or someone else was speaking and talking about me. Again, it looks very small. Just
I'll clarify. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. And otherwise, everything else looks good to me.
Okay. For the record, Counselor Cannon and Counselor Wright have joined us.
Yes.
Any other comments on the minutes from December 10th, my birthday meeting? No, if not, do I hear a motion to approve with as corrected with Brenna's comment?
To approve the minutes with Brenna's comment included.
Okay, any discussion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ron seconds, Counselor Wright seconds. All in favor? My hand is raised. Amy? Okay, good. Thank you, guys. Okay, now it's time for open mic for a moment, for a few minutes. Public comments. Any? Jane, Mark, Commissioner Heggie? Commissioner Heggie, how about we start with you? Anything for the group here from the county level?
Nope, I think I'm good. I just wanted to stop by and see how you guys are doing and watch your meeting.
Well, thank you. We always appreciate your participation, you and other commissioners. Thank you. Anyone else? Amy, does anyone have their hands raised? I see chat here.
We've got Miss Jane.
Okay. Just a couple requests and questions. I've noticed today that the trains are honking all day. So I'm just curious if the city has interfaced with Union Pacific regarding their need or whatever the regulations are, or how we could get around them honking most of the day. And then my other kind of just comment or concern would be relative to last meeting when the discussion was where the city will kind of get and use the funds for the skate park, given that it's a reimbursement only. My concern about using the funds in the account would be the unknown factor about how Union Pacific construction might affect the skate park's plan and ability to finish on X, whatever the parameters are. And I would hate to see us stuck with city funds that are needed for possible emergencies if there is kind of an upset to the apple cart with construction.
Got it. Okay, Jane, two questions. I think we can answer them. We have Monica here on the second question. First question, Andrew, you want to speak to the horn topic? Gary, hold on a second. Let's let Andrew go.
I did hear, some additional horns today. One of them sounded like there was someone most likely on the tracks. That's when you hear the loudest, most lengthy of horns. And then I also noticed a little later this afternoon that there was a train that was sitting and waiting in the Mosier in this Mosier city limit area, and when a train passes, they do need to honk. As far as continued noise, we are talking to Union Pacific, and have asked them to limit their horn blowing, but there are certain times when they are required to do it for the safety of the public and as well as their employees.
Well, how about this? Let's pay attention, Jane. If it's happening more, let Andrea know, and Andrea can talk to Aaron Hunt, our go-to guy.
Okay.
We've spent a lot of time. Andrew spent a lot of time coordinating with Aaron on this whole project and the puts and takes, so to speak. So we can go back to them if it becomes a problem. Second question, Monica, do you want to address that? How we'll use funds to build out and then be reimbursed from Oregon Parks?
Well, before I do, Counselor Lindemeyer, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to
Okay.
point out that as they've already moved some trailers and they have their construction zone set up in there. And since it is now officially as I understand it anyway, a construction zone for the railroad, they are required to sound their horns before with every train before it enters this construction zone from either direction. So and typically that's a couple of short blasts, maybe two times. So that's going to be ongoing as long as they're.
Well, let's not belabor this tonight. Andrea, follow up with Aaron Hahn on there's got to be a fix here when it's right downtown or bedroom, so to speak. Okay, let's go to the second question, or we can follow up on that if you guys want.
Yeah, I will just follow up quickly. And I think the question was around maybe cash flow with the skate park. And because it is a reimbursement grant, we are and will be prepared to be able to fund that park with Colleen's swift process of managing these grants and projects and getting the money, the reimbursement request sent in.
So Monica, I think part of Jane's question was risk to our other accounts. You don't see any undue risk with our process here. We do this is kind of standard practice, right?
Well, yes, the grant from Oregon Parks is standard practice in that it's a reimbursement grant, right? They don't send you the money up front. There's always a risk whenever you have a project on any grant, right? Any project you're working with partners, there's always some risk. But I think with Oregon Parks, it's one of the least risky ones there is. The Parks Department tends to be the most stable, and the turnaround is fairly quick. So I'm not. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it just to make sure that everything is the cash flow is flowing smoothly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? And let the record show that Councilor Kerner has joined us, Amy.
Yes.
Any other from the public? Mark? Thank you, Jane. Good questions. Okay, we're going to go to business. Closing the Community Celebration Trust Fund. Monica, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this is housekeeping as much as anything. The Community Celebration Trust Fund, which was created via a resolution approved by the council in 2013, still remains open. And so this is housekeeping more than anything, and that I'm requesting that you approve the resolution, the first one of the year, to close this trust fund. It has a negative $567 in it, which means the general fund will absorb that. And this is just, we'll get it nice and clean and cleaned up out of there for our audit.
Any questions for Monica? Comments? Going once, going twice? Okay. Do we need a motion to approve the resolution? Anyone
Please.
so entertained? Counselors? Anyone? Go ahead, Ron. Thank you.
I move the council approve resolution 2026-01, authorizing the closure and cancellation of the Community Celebration Trust Fund.
Any discussion? People good with that? Do I have a second to that motion? Noah?
I'll second the motion.
I thought you were moving that way. Thank you. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Mayor's hand is raised, Amy. Looks like we're all good. Charlie, is your hand up? Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you, Monica.
Yes, thank you.
Cleaning house. Good to be diligent in those ways. All right, moving right along. Andrea, year in review.
Okay. So this is related to the water usage fee.
Well, I was
okay, this is my year in review.
Yeah.
Our year in review.
Yes. Ours.
So I provided in the packet kind of a summary of completed projects, projects that are in the works, and then putting out my opinion and goals for the next fiscal year. I also provided a summary that I used the AI Copilot to review and summarize all of our minutes from the previous meetings. I have to share that, I used the AI program to summarize key points, and my intention really is to just demonstrate the amount of work that we have accomplished in the past year, as well as the amount of work that we currently have on our plates. I think the most critical thing that we have done this year is hire a full-time staff, and that's Amy, and her what she has provided for the city has been above and beyond my expectations, and I just want to put kudos out there to Amy for the professionalism that she brings to the office, and her ideas as far as streamlining and making things just more direct. Now that we have an open city hall, our need for more virtual things and numerous websites or numerous ways to access or provide questions to the city has been limited to an info@Mosier email versus multiple other ones. Another thing that she's done is really taken a look at the short-term rental process, began implementing that, which means additional revenue to the city once we get that in place. And, once we get additional folks registered, and she'll be reporting on that, but really streamlining that process to make it more user-friendly. We also, a lot of things that take city time and is our planning operations and fielding cemetery questions. Those have been a couple of key points this year that, we're still trying to find some solutions to make the processes more direct and be able to respond quickly to inquiries from the city. And that leads to my goals, my hopes and goals for the next year by showing the amount of work that we still have ahead of us with Colleen as project manager and Monica. We have a very, very good staff and team right now to work through and continue to manage those 7 fairly large projects that are either grant driven or, for instance, the parking study that's coming up. That is all of the funding for that comes from the Department of Land Conservation and Development, but our administrative time is what the city will be providing to that. And that's where I want us to focus in the next year. We've kind of created the stability to be able to manage all these projects, but the city really needs to be very specific and not take on any additional projects for a while until we can see where we're at. And the city hall, Amy's job as far as a city recorder and our record retention and the rules around that is where I'm going to be focusing my time and energy to find the resources to support the city in complying with that.
Yeah.
And also spoke with Monica. We have I've been joining the finance meeting recently, which is always very informative. And she recommended that we redo or update our employee manual, our employee handbook. And now that we have 2 3/4 full-time employees, this is an opportunity to bring us into the year 2026 with regards to what our employee manual is saying the expectations are for us.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and thank you for the report. At the macro level, I want to say you've assembled a really good team. Amy and Monica and Colleen and Laura. I mean, I feel so much better about where we are this year, not to mention all the specific accomplishments in the last year. So kudos to you in guiding the team and leading the team. So for counselors, you can have some feedback or input now. I think I mentioned in November that in January I wanted to do a little review, our collective performance, but also for Andrea. And so I've asked Brenna and Ron to take a few minutes and sit down with me, and we'll have a face-to-face discussion with Andrea about specific accomplishments and just what Andrea said, focus areas in the coming year. And we'll knock out a little review there. And we can keep it simple. It doesn't have to be too hard. So we'll do that in the next couple of weeks. If anybody has specific input on specific things, feel free to call me or text me or talk to Brenna or Ron. But I'd like to do that and get that behind us so we have that in the books. But I think overall, just, at summary level, I think it was a very good year. We made a lot of forward progress. I feel the ship is a lot more stable than it had been in prior years. So thank you to you, Andrea, and the whole team. But other comments, counselors? And as we go forward, all of this focus areas will get rolled up into our budget, right? We have tasks and activities and projects, and we'll be able to outline the detail a little bit better as we go into the budget season. So everything has a source of funds. Any comments, questions for Andrea? Again, Andrea, thank you. Thanks to the team. And Happy New Year. Got a new year to perform. Okay, anything else, Andrea, that you'd like to say?
Me?
Yeah, you good?
Well, I just another highlight is that we're always looking for additional revenue, and I want to pat myself and Amy on the back for doing a lot to save money. Amy has done a lot in streamlining things, and I want to that we did complete that FEMA process, which reimbursed us a small amount for the amount of work that we did that was done, not me but that was done during that storm of January of 2024, and just to kind of give council an idea of that process. It was multiple meetings trying to help me get through the process in order to provide all the documentation needed to get that reimbursement. And the one thing, the one real physical thing that resulted from that was the new roof on City Hall that had just previously had plastic covering on it. We've had a more mild winter, but still with the rain event that we had, if we didn't have that steel roof, who knows what might have happened there.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you for
and a new city truck.
Yeah, another accomplishment. Okay, well, good work. We'll have a little more detailed discussion with you, Andrea, in the next couple of weeks and put that behind us. Thank you. Okay, bulk water rates, Andrea.
Again, this has came as a directive from citizens and individuals interested in providing water to the community members outside the city limits whose wells have run critically low, also to provide fire prevention water for individuals that have an extra, a large tank on their property for the purpose of firefighting. And Amy did a lot of research around other cities and what they do with bulk water and how we might be able to provide this service at a reasonable rate that a company would still be able to operate and profit from getting water from our system and hauling it to communities, our Greater Mosier community members. This isn't really intended for water use outside of the city limits. The commercial rate is was determined by averaging and looking at other cities and what they do. So we went with and also we chose a tank size rate. We went with a daily rate of $250. And then depending on the size of the tank, to eliminate the need to meter the water is how the additional charges will be applied. I want to say that our Mosier, the city of Mosier, is very fortunate to have an abundant water source. And the reason we have that is because we are at the low end of the community and very close to the water table. We've just done a backup well, and the water event that happened, on Saturday, when it came back online, our reservoir was being filled at 300 gallons per minute, and that speaks to the health of our water. So I recommend that we move forward to amend our rate schedule to add this fee for bulk water use, and it will also be applied to Union Pacific Railroad and their needs during construction.
Yeah, good. I looked at it. I think it looks good and sensible. Do we have the procedural piece of this, how people hook in and who's going to oversee that worked out, or is that yet to be done?
We do have that primarily worked out through the application. It kind of explains what that process is, and we will be updating our intergovernmental agreement with the fire department for them to be present during filling, which
Okay.
is a request of our water service operator.
Okay, good. They're willing. Good. Questions, comments, counselors for Andrea, Ron?
Brenna.
Oh, go ahead, Brenda. You got your hand up.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted some clarification because I'm not sure I was initially reading this correctly on the actual pay rates. Is it $250 just to access, and then depending on how many gallons or how big their load is what the 10, 25, 50, and $75 is? Am I reading that correctly, or is it?
Yes. So
Yes.
it's a 250 daily rate. So for instance, if a water the company getting water may be able to make multiple runs within that day. They may be able to make 2 or 3 runs. It would be $250 for the day, and then if they have a 10,000 gallon tank, it would be an additional $50 per load. And if they could do 2 or 3 loads, then the total would be around $350, $400.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. Because at first, when I read this, I kind of made the $250 its own separate thing, and then I was like, "Wow, $10 for a big load." I was like, "That feels really cheap." So this makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Okay, Ron, then Noah.
Oh, yeah. So that was one of my questions you answered. And then I was just curious, we're calling it not potable water, but it's coming from the city water supply.
So the minute the city water leaves our system, we can no longer claim it to be potable.
Okay.
We don't know what kind of tank it's going into. So it's clear artesian water, but we can't claim it as potable because it's not being sanitized through our system.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Noah?
I really love that we're doing this just because I feel like it's kind of been some time coming, and I do, see like a pretty significant need with the kind of insurance issues that could arise. But I do have kind of a concern or maybe a question about just how this might affect the ongoing issues with the water table as a whole in the region. We've been having kind of issues with that water table for a while, and last year we had a meeting about that, where the county talked a little bit about the water table, and there's been folks kind of going dry up in the valley. I guess I'm just curious how connected we are to that water table, maybe partially just for my own kind of education.
Oh, that's really a question that's a little above my my education and expertise. But what I know is that I don't that we have a very good supply of water, and I don't believe that the use that we have in Mosier will deplete that water table.
Yeah.
It's sort of a not use it or lose it, but we're at the bottom of that water table.
How about this? We can get, now that we're finishing the well project, the backup well, Colleen and I talked about getting a little report from GSI. They're the hydrogeologist experts behind the project. They approved where we drilled to 459 feet. I was out there today. The driller said they flowed 400 gallons a minute, no problem. And the bottom line, Noah, is we're in the very deep aquifer, and the problem aquifers are the upper. There's, I think, at least 3 aquifers that have been the problem up in the valley. But how about this, Andrea? Maybe in the next meeting we can get the Schneider, the driller, and maybe GSI to just give us a little primer and answer your question, Noah. When we decided to do this project, GSI told us our aquifer is good for 75 to 100 years at least. So, it gave us, as a council, confidence in going forward with the project, to put more robustness in the system. So how about that? We can get, Colleen can arrange that with Andrea. Okay, Gary, then Charlie.
Yeah, I'm wondering when developing the cost for these commercial sales, was there any comparison done to as far as the rate that the people that we're selling this water to, the rate that they're paying as compared to the citizens of Mosier and how much they are paying? Where is there a difference there, or what is, you know what I mean? I guess the simple question would be, am I paying less than the people that this water is being shipped to? And are the citizens of Mosier paying less than the folks that their wells have run dry?
Well, that's, I, 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 we looked at what our rates were based on our water fee schedule, as well as the commercial water rates, and those are all done per 1,000 gallons.
Right.
And what I did was I took the top rate for that for commercial use, and I added some pennies and I multiplied by the largest amount of gallons to ensure that per gallon the commercial rate is higher than what the citizens are paying. The citizens are also part of that water rate, and please correct me if I'm wrong, also helps to support the water system and our services to maintain and have the water flowing. But that was a consideration, and to think about, what someone at the top of State Road is, how long will their 10,000 gallons of water last them? How often will they need to refill their reservoir? Those are all, questions that would probably require a study of some sort. And what we did was use the example of what other communities have done. And then I did do the math around per 1,000 gallon rate and make sure that, we were not discounting our water.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes, these
Yes.
folks will be paying more per gallon. And remember, council's discussed this prior. This is all based on no detriment to our system. If at any point in the future we see some detriment tied to selling water to outside of the city, we can suspend that. So that, certainly our option. Charlie, and then Colleen, I'll give you a minute.
Yeah, I was just curious, with those numbers, as far as whether it's 300 or 400 gallons a minute, do we have any record of what those numbers were in the summer months, especially in the driest months, just to be forecasting for, that's when people are going to want the water the most?
The well yield you're asking? Yeah.
Well, we reported 300 or 400 gallons a minute, but that's during heavy rainfall and saturation.
No, I don't think that's true, Charlie. But that we can get that question answered by RH2, the folks that are in the operation. But we run 300 gallons a minute from the pump in the summer months.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Colleen, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Gary's question and what Andrea was saying, in that the citizens who live within the city boundaries also pay taxes and system development charges. So you're also paying rates as well as that. So the commercial fees being higher is just to compensate the citizens for their deep investment.
Yeah, good point. Well, any other questions, comments? Do we need action here to adopt the proposed rates?
Yes, we do.
If no further discussion, questions, comments, thank you. Good work addressing this issue.
So we do need a motion to pass the resolution.
I was just gonna.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Working on entertaining that. So would any counselor like to make such a motion?
I'm happy to make the motion.
Okay.
I move that the city council adopt resolution number 2026-02 as proposed by staff, amending the consolidated fee schedule to establish bulk water fees and authorizing the city administrator to implement the process.
Good. Any discussion? Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Gary. All in favor, raise your hands. Mine is raised, Amy. Good, great, good work, you guys. I mean, I think this is a good place to be for the city to help our neighbors in the valley to the extent it doesn't harm the city. So thank you for this work. Took a while. Okay, Andrea, good work. Let's move on to short-term rental permitting update. Is that Andrea or Amy?
Amy.
That's me. So we've gotten, first off, I really want to thank the short-term rental committee. They've done a lot of legwork, and especially Elizabeth Payne. She continues to assist me pretty regularly. So I definitely appreciate her assistance. So we have started, as of the 31st, we've got 9 permits completed, and they've provided all their information. We have 8 or 9 of them that we are still waiting for further information, whether it be local contact information, but primarily it is our transient lodging tax proof. The one thing that we've noticed with transient lodging taxes, if you're running through an third-party intermediary like Airbnb or Vrbo, they file the taxes for you. So you can't go to the state of Oregon website and produce a report that says, Jane Smith has paid this amount in taxes. So there's been kind of a learning curve there. But we have figured out some reporting that a few of the platforms do provide. So we do have 10 or 15 more that are questionable that the committee had identified as potential, if not currently running short-term rentals, that I need to do some more digging into. They're not on the platform we're using currently called host compliance. For instance, what you're seeing now, this is also in your packet, is just kind of a map of what Granicus or host compliance shows for short-term rentals within our community. Unfortunately, it is a little grayed out because their website puts a haze over our city limits. So hopefully you see better. But we do have quite a few that are compliant, and we do have a few that are non-compliant and unknowns. I'm thinking that a lot of those addresses that were provided were part of these unknowns or non-compliance. So another thing we've gone through is we've discontinued using the JIRA portal, which was built, my understanding, during when we didn't have full-time office staff. It gave kind of a portal for those applicants and the city to communicate. We've streamlined it because there were a lot of technical issues that the applicants were having problems with. So we streamlined it to, for right now, the PDF fillable, send it in to City Hall or email it, and we communicate through that one email, the info@citymosier.gov, to keep that continuity and ease for them. We still don't have a lot of, we don't have complete numbers on caps and neighborhood caps and where we are at, because we still have so many outstanding that I want to make sure we get identified before saying we are at cap or give incorrect numbers. These graphs that you're seeing right now, these are again from Granicus and host compliance. It kind of gives them an identifiable I guess, rental units over time that they've identified. Hopefully it's big enough for you guys to see, but again, this is in the packet. So it does show a steady increase of identifications, which we all knew. But one of the biggest things that we pulled from our books is so far to date, we're at $190,000 worth of incoming funds from that transient lodging tax. So let's see, just to make sure, we do have in fiscal year 23-24, it was just under $80,000 that came in. And then 24-25, we had about 85,500. So with what we have identified right now, I'm predicting a very low 80,000 just to be safe. But as we continue to identify and bring these short-term rentals into compliance, that can easily grow. So, and that's about it. Any questions I can answer?
Amy, I have one.
Yeah.
Just looking at how up to date is that map that you provided?
I pulled that map within, I think it was just after the first of the year. So it's relatively current as to what they have. So again, with the 10 to 15 that Jane and that the committee has identified, I think we have more information than they do.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I was going to say that the living where I do, there's 3 short-term rentals that I know of personally that weren't on that map. Just a
Perfect. Well, that's my next step. The next step is going through and like Andrea always says, get the low-hanging fruit first, get those who have already applied and still need to provide information, get those into compliance, and then I'm going to dig into ferreting out the rest.
Ron, did you have a question?
Oh, that 190,000, that's over a couple of years?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is from the beginning of having access to that tax.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Amy, I question.
Please.
You went over this, but make sure I understand. So separate and aside from the permit, the city short-term rental permit, we are collecting the TLT, our share of the TLT tax that Oregon Department of Revenue collects. That's
Correct.
the 80,000 or so we get per year. I think in our budget, we've assumed 100,000 a time or two. But did you also say that once we get more people into compliance with city code on the short-term rental permit, that would add funds into TLT? So there's some people that are operating and not paying the TLT. Is that the takeaway?
Yes, basically. We've got 10 to 15, and as you know, Gary mentioned, there's 3 that weren't on the map. So we don't know if they are currently paying transient lodging tax. So once we're able to identify and confirm that they are running, we can, it's a little bit of a leap of faith that they are paying taxes, because when we get our funding deposits for those taxes, it doesn't break out and say, A, B, C has paid their taxes. So really using those reports that they provide from their dashboard, like Airbnb, is really, it's a lot of it's an honor system.
Does Oregon Department of Revenue have any kind of enforcement arm?
That I don't know off the top of my head, but I can definitely research.
Well, good work. Like others are saying. Other questions, comments for Amy? It's been a long process, but we keep chipping away at it. Go ahead, Andrea.
I just wanted to note that the majority of the folks that are currently in compliance are in the commercial zone and wouldn't be counted in the caps for neighborhoods. And for Gary's comment, please let Amy know what those addresses are, because that is going to be another big lift once we have the known, the people that have come forward voluntarily to say, yes, I have a short-term rental, I want to register and be counted. And there's value in that to the residents that are operating short-term rentals, because, for instance, in the neighborhood I live in, the cap is 4 additional short-term rentals. And once that number of 4 is reached, then we wouldn't take another application for this specific neighborhood. The Cherry Hill neighborhood is one that we've identified as already being over that 10% cap that our ordinance allows. And within that ordinance, there is a 7-year period for some of those homes that will then sunset. And then there is, maybe Monica can speak to that as far as, how the revenue from Department of Revenue, the number of units that we are currently receiving taxes from, is what we're trying to raise, so that we can raise those, so that we can raise the revenue from that. And then another high level thought is that the League of Oregon Cities is continuing to try to bring forward a bill that will adjust the way these taxes are used, because right now there's a rule that says 70% is supposed to go towards marketing and tourism promotion, which for a very small city is difficult to do. And the 30% is allowed to just be used for general funds and anything we see fit. And the goal of this bill is to make that 40% specific to tourism and 60% more flexible funds.
Other questions, comments? Amy, good work. Keep chipping away. Thank you. Yeah, after all, our policy is to not have too many short-term rentals and lose the community cohesiveness, the whole philosophy behind that. Okay, good work, you guys are moving along. City updates. Andrea, I'll start with you.
I guess the biggest update is, continuing to work to finalize the contract with Union Pacific Railroad for their temporary easement around the staging area. I've been working with Laura on that and hope to get it to the Union Pacific rep by the end of the week. And that will, include a certain amount of money to lease the space. So that's a revenue source.
Okay. Gary, do you want to do a little short thumbnail on the first meeting of the skate park rules committee?
Sure. Thanks, Whit. We had our first meeting last month, towards the end of the month. Developed a set of rules that have already been printed out that will be presented to the council. We have another meeting tomorrow night at 4:30 at the Senior Center, if anyone is interested in showing up, where we hope to finalize the sign that's going to be up for the rules, and then also some policy suggestions, excuse me, for the city to follow up on. So all in all, it's moving right along, and it's very productive.
Good, great to hear. Thanks to all the committee members, you and Noah and Jane and Matthew and others working that, Mike Sloan and Bob Cushman. Good, we look forward to that. Okay, I have one little update. Joint Use Facility, Mosier Center. The committee met in December and discussed various options, including the path we're currently on. The next step is to go to the short session, which is February, of the legislature and make a request once again, based on the recommendation of Senator Bonham and Representative Helfrich. You guys all know the county commissions of the district and Bonham's district appointed Christine Drazen to take his seat. So she's our senator now. Rob Miller of the Fire Board and I and Andrea and Chief Oswald and firefighter McKibben met with Senator Drazen. She was gracious enough to stop in here for 30 or 45 minutes about 2 weeks ago. And we had a nice discussion with her. She didn't make any commitments, of course, but talked about how important that kind of community center fire station facility is so important, and it's a good project. So the Joint Use Committee's plan is we'll work that through this session. If we don't get money in this session, I think we'll have to talk about options. Do we start a new design? How much money do we have to go through perhaps a design build process, et cetera? But we'll make at least another big hard push for this session of the legislature. Ron, do you want to add anything to that? Oh, okay, good, thank you.
I think you got it.
What else? Any counselors have any updates?
I'll add that Breen Goodwin, president of Columbia Gorge Food Bank, will be available at Randonate at 11:30 in the morning tomorrow. She should be there for a few hours, and she's kind of coming in with the Community Cups and Mojer Cares Coalition folks to kind of try to have an informative meeting and just talk to folks about kind of how things are going and how we can all better collaborate on kind of solving food insecurity in the community here.
Oh, good, great work, awesome. Anyone else? Anything for the good of the order? Say, Shane Cargo, I see you've joined us. If you're listening, just so you know, before you got on, we approved a fee schedule for bulk water. And if you don't have that, Amy or Andrea could share that with you, but that's been approved. Okay, well, if nothing else, we'll maybe Colleen, we can schedule the well water guys to come to a council meeting and give us a little short session on where we are in the water system in terms of some of the questions like Charlie asked, and how this project turned out, maybe in the next meeting or the meeting after, Andrea.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, Happy New Year, everyone. Good to see you all, and thanks for your work.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Good night, all.
Thank you all.
Bye. Bye.